Hello and welcome back to another draft video. My name is Cecilia and we're going to be going over the top 8 tight ends of the NFL draft. I will also be making another video where I go through 9 through 15 as well as probably a couple honorable mentions, but I wanted to start with the best that the 2026 NFL draft has to offer. So I've kind of separated them into tiers, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't have second round grades on any of these tight ends. For me, you have one tight end in the first round, you can guess who, and then it skips to the third round. And I think that's important because what that does is that pushes the value of the first round tight end that much farther. Because if you want someone who's going to be an instant impact player, there's kind of only one guy who can really change an offense. So we're going to get into all that. Please like and subscribe if you like what you have seen. Members, of course, are seeing this a week early, as always. And we're going to get right into it. So starting off with our number 1 tight end, it is Kenyan Sadiq, to no one's surprise. Oregon, number 18, 6'1", 241 pounds. He will be barely 21 years old on draft night. And I think that's really important because this is someone who, in some ways, I was hoping he would take some bigger steps forward for Oregon. The fact that he is so young kind of reassures you that he still has so much potential. In terms of his combine numbers, I'm not going to go through them for everyone, but his I thought were really impressive. 4.39 40 time, that's the fastest ever for a tight end. 10-yard split was 1.54, so, he gets to his speed pretty quickly. 31.5-inch arms, 43.5-inch vertical, 26 reps on bench, 11-foot 1-inch broad jump. This is an incredible athlete, and I think that's really important for this position. And this is someone who, he made waves at the combine, not surprising. Everybody knew that he would, right? He was a consensus 4-star recruit out of high school, barely played as a true freshman, played a little bit more as a sophomore, got some timely catches, got some touchdowns in the Big Ten championship. I think he got 2 touchdowns, maybe 1, not sure. But the jump that he took in 2025, not gonna lie, as an Oregon fan, it did catch me off guard, but I didn't realize he had put on like 30 pounds since his freshman year. So don't let that raw speed make you think that he isn't built to be a tight end. He will absolutely play at a higher weight in the NFL. And I would guess that he will try to get that up to like 250. That's more than adequate. So his release isn't explosive, but the breaks on his routes are explosive, if that makes sense, which kind of tells me that I think with some coaching, with another couple years of development, his release is probably going to improve a bit. He needs a few steps to get going, and then he's really fast. He does a good job of handling throws behind him, something Dante Moore, unfortunately, gave him a lot of opportunities to prove. He gets consistent separation. He's not afraid of contact. He's smart against zone coverage. Very in control. He uses that second gear to get deep field separation as well. So he's really good at all 3 levels. And, I've heard some talk about him as a blocker. I've had my own doubts about him as a blocker, but when he blocks smaller linebackers, he does a really good job of getting them off balance and driving them forward. He does have a harder time in open space against shiftier backs. I think that can come with time. And I think NFL backs, not saying they're not shifty, but they do kind of favor being bigger than college backs. His slower initial burst, I think, hurt his ability to get to his marks to block, especially for screens at times. But depending on the weight he plays at, that might not be a problem because he showed how quick he can be at a lower weight at the combine. So teams could consider if they want him to play at more of a receiver weight. I think he can do pretty much whatever teams want him to. He blocks best when he's lined up with his hand in the dirt. When he is in the backfield coming forward or toward the sideline, he kind of leans forward and is easy for defenders to swipe to the side. So he definitely needs more control in that regard. But I think that's kind of his biggest issue. So the good news is, like I said, he's very young. Even though he added some weight, he can definitely afford to add more and be coached into being more controlled, more disciplined. But incredible flashes are there. And I think all of his issues are coachable issues that come down to inexperience. Because he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, his production was great, but you kind of look at it as this is someone who has not reached his potential. And he needs to know better when to be aggressive, when to be controlled, when to read the guy in front of him. But he's an athletic freak. He lines up all over the field. He's comfortable being the motion guy. Immediate mismatch at every level. His production and experience are limited, and I think he was also underutilized after the snap by Dante Moore, whose pass protection didn't always hold up down the stretch, even though their offensive line started out pretty good at the beginning of the season. So he was often only throwing to his first couple of reads, and that often wasn't Kenyan Sadiq. But his potential is off of the charts, and I think it'll take time for him to come online as a blocker in the NFL, but all of the tools that he needs to do it are there. He's young, he will be coachable. To me, this is a mid-first round grade, meaning I see him as someone who should go between like 15 and 25. It's possible he goes before then because, like I said, there's a big gap after that. There's a really big gap. I don't have any second round grades on these players, and part of that is I'm lower on the next two guys than most people are, but I think some teams are going to see it that way, so he could go, in the top 15. And I would understand it because he could be that good. I think you're betting a bit on potential because the production could have been higher, the play experience could have been more, but Kenyan Sadiq is a special player coming out of Oregon. So after that, there's a big gap. We're entering the next tier of player. And the next one I'm going to talk about is Max Klene from Ohio State, number 86, 6'4", 246 pounds. He didn't participate in testing at the combine, but he did do the drills, showed some nice ball skills, began his career at Purdue. He was their lead receiver his second year in 2024 with 685 yards, and then he transferred to Ohio State in 2025, put on some weight, put on some strength to play how Ryan Day wanted him to. He did slow down a bit because of that, but he also improved as a blocker, so it's one of those how do you want him to play for you kind of questions. He lines up as an H-back, in line, in the slot, all very comfortably. He has solid ball skills, catches with his hands, not his body. I think he does a good job using his size to box out defenders, and he moves well for his larger frame. Definitely a mismatch opportunity, the kind of build that you think of a classic tight end in the NFL right now. And he's really smart into zone coverage, which is really important for the position. Great on scramble drills. Shows how he used to play quarterback, which isn't super uncommon for tight ends. A lot of more athletic quarterbacks, if they aren't going to make it as a quarterback, they will move to the tight end position, and they benefit a lot from that kind of ability to read the defense. In general, he blocks really well. He needs to lower his pad level a bit. Feels like something that can come in time with better coaching. He held up well as a blocker against Miami, including, going one-on-one versus Ruben Bain, Akeem Messidor, who are both first-round edge rushers. His frame is big enough that he has the traits to be a great blocker. He's not consistent yet. He's going to be seen more as a receiving asset and mismatch opportunity in the passing game, but he blocks well in space. He just doesn't have the anchor yet. I think he can add some more strength and, depending on what he wants his play weight to be, that can be something that improves over time. He's not enough of a technically refined player to be seen as a primary blocking tight end for a team, but he should develop in that regard. And according to Ryan Day, he is a leader. He's a great locker room guy. And for me, this is the highest third round grade that I give. He's not going to be tight end one to anyone, but he could be a rotational help who could have a big upside as an all-around player long term for a very patient team. I think there's a lot to be excited about for Max Klene in the long run. He's not going to show up and be anyone's tight end one, but in terms of being an overall productive and effective tight end, he should be the number 2 choice behind Kenyan Sadiq. After him, Eli Sters, who I also have a third round grade on. Vanderbilt, number 9, 6'4", 239 pounds. His combine numbers were interesting to me. 4.51 40-yard dash, 1.59 10-yard split, and 45.5 vertical, which is a position record. Also 11-foot 3-inch broad jump. So he beats Kenyan Sadiq in those regards. This is someone, again, he was a quarterback in high school, 4-star recruit. He was a state champion in Texas, and he did the high jump in track. So very athletic background, and he began as a backup quarterback at Texas A&M, transferred to New Mexico State, where he became a tight end. And considering how new he was to the position, he put up pretty solid numbers. He looked natural, and he followed his offensive coordinator to Vanderbilt in 2024 and quickly rose up those ranks. Probably could have been drafted then, but he went back to school, decided to stay on his steep trajectory upward. He won the John Mackey Award, which is for the best tight end in the country, and he has great burst off the snap. It helps him get him open immediately. He has long arms and sure hands. He has a huge catch radius. Definitely saved Diego Pavia on some of those questionable throws over the middle more than once. really reliable hands, even in contested catch situations or over the shoulder on deep routes. He's not going to drop many passes that he gets his hands on. That makes him a real asset in the red zone, where his vertical speed and ball skills are just really hard to defend one-on-one. Really fast breaks give him good separation, make him a real yak threat. He turns his body while the ball is in flight to set himself up to run vertically in a way that I think is really advanced, and he always gets an extra few yards without even breaking a tackle, and I think that's really valuable, especially for a smaller guy who, at the NFL level, he's probably a long way away from being able to break a lot of tackles. Being a former quarterback, he's able to read defenses well. He can find soft spots in zone coverage, and that's one of those skills that translate really well to the NFL early. If a team is patient with the fact that he needs to put on some serious play strength, in my opinion, at the next level, in a couple years, they could have a really dynamic threat in the passing game who becomes a problem in the red zone. But you have to understand with him, the reason I have him below Max Klene, he gives you pretty much nothing as a blocker, and that's not great for a tight end. You essentially have to see him as a glorified slot receiver, and his technique in blocking is bad, his approach is bad, his anchor is bad. You're hiding him in the run game. Otherwise, his presence is a giveaway that you're passing. That's the reality of Eli Sters, and that's why I'm not higher on him. But I think, a scheme that runs 13 personnel could make that work, but for this foreseeable future, you can't see him as a special teams contributor. He's a blocking liability, so I can't give him higher than a third-round grade. But the potential is there. If he goes to a patient team that is willing to wait for him to put on the weight, develop some blocking skills so he can at least hide in running situations, you're going to have a pretty special pass catcher. All right, next we have one of my favorite players in this draft, Sam Roush from Stanford, number 86, 6'6", 267 pounds. This is someone who I think most people probably have around tight end 7 or 8, but for me, he's 4. It's one of the most interesting players to me. His background is in rugby. He spent a lot of time in Indonesia as a kid, lots of football talent in his bloodline, consistent academic awards at a very competitive school. He's so durable. He played in literally every single game across his career in Stanford, really became a starter his junior year, steadily improved every season. 2025 was his best by far, and he is one of the few true Y tight ends in this draft. Most players are receivers who minor in blocking or blockers who minor in receiving at best. He is so hard to push back. He's noticeably bigger and stronger than the DBs he lines up against. And he has proven to be surprisingly athletic at the combine, which I think shows a really high ceiling. He ran faster than some of the smaller linebackers at drills with a 4.7 40 time. Roush becomes an offensive lineman when he is lined up with the line. It's incredible to watch. He can seal the edge. He can get to the second level. He can be effective in pass protection. He still has room to improve in that regard, but he has real potential there, which is pretty rare in this class. He has good contact balance after the catch. He is often the player left standing when he gets knocked out of bounds. Players just bounce off of him, and as he increases his awareness, he will use that to his advantage. He breaks tackles just by churning his legs. He's so effective at the intermediate level, always an explosive play risk because he might make the first guy miss just by coming into contact with him. And for that same reason, he's a great red zone threat as well. His route running is good. I do think his route running needs to improve at the next level. I think that's one of the reasons I have him below Max Klene, who I consider to also have potential to be a true all-around tight end. I just think the athleticism that Sam Roush has suggests that he should have better route running and more effective separation than he does. So that's something he needs to improve. So I don't think he's reached his full potential in the short field or in the red zone, but I think he can still be an above average tight end in the NFL. He also needs to protect the football better. He gets aggressive, tries to fight for extra yards. I think that's a very coachable issue though. What stands out to me is his effort. He plays through the whistle. He tries to knock out whoever is in front of him. This is my kind of tight end. He is trying to make it so everyone in his path ends up on the ground. He should be talked about a lot more than he is. I think at a school with a better quarterback, he would just have better production numbers and maybe be seen as, a top 5 kind of guy. To me, he clearly is. I actually think there's an argument he's better than Eli Sters, but I think tight end is such a strange position. Like, do you want someone in the mold of a blocker and a receiver who's going for size mismatch, or do you want someone in the mold of a slot receiver? Those are very different. But, for me, this is a almost top 3 kind of tight end. I'm higher on him than most. I understand that, but this is a mid 3rd round player to me who has one of the higher ceilings as a 3-down contributor and all-around tight end. He needs refinement, but I think he has the potential to be the kind of tight end that you just never take off of the field, who's there on every single snap. I understand I'm higher on him. I think he could be available in the 4th round, and playing at Stanford it just doesn't lend itself to being seen as a high-end weapon, but I think he has exactly what he needs to be a big impact player. And after him, I think there's another gap in talent before the next tier of players. And in this next tier of players, I actually have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 players in this next tier. Obviously, I'm only going to go over a few of them right now because I'm only going through 1 through 8. But if this is the tier of tight end that you're looking for, the good news is this is pretty deep. There's a lot of options. So we're going to talk about Jack Endries from Texas, number 88, 6'5", 245 pounds. He started his career at Cal as a 3-star recruit, was there for 2 years, got about 1,000 yards between the 2 years, transferred to Texas, was pretty productive. In a few games, he has really been the difference maker for that offense. What stands out right away is they rarely take him off the field. He's trusted in every situation. He's proved really durable, and in every situation, he is capable. He holds his own. He has competency at every tight end skill. So another one of those potential all-around guys. I just wouldn't say that he's a super consistent blocker. He's a little bit smaller. There are flashes, though. His punch is strong. He gets himself in the right place, always knows his assignment, but I think there's a lot of room for technical refinement for him, at least in blocking. His pad level's a bit high. He hesitates, which means he rarely knocks guys back, but it also means that he doesn't whiff. I just think he could use a little bit more aggression in that regard, and he doesn't have the best anchor against powerful defenders. His pass protection is solid. He is very comfortable blocking faster edge rushers in line, pretty rare for this class. He has good awareness against zone coverage. I think he does a good job being a safety blanket for his quarterback. And Endries lines up all over the field on passing downs. His speed on vertical routes is great for consistent separation, and I think his best strength is his hands. He is someone who does not drop the ball. Even in traffic, even when he is anticipating a big hit, he holds on to it. His drop rate was under 4% in 2025, under 2% in 2024. He was a lot less effective against man-heavy defenses, which I think is worth noting. His ability to break tackles was very inconsistent. He needs to turn his legs faster after turning upfield after a catch, but what he has, I think, is enough to be kind of the chain mover, 3rd down kind of tight end in the NFL. He can be a safety blanket for a quarterback while contributing to pass protection, which I think is a big deal. He needs to add weight. He needs to add strength. An NFL coach is going to work on his blocking technique. He should end up as a solid all-around tight end after a couple years, and this is a late 3rd round, maybe early 4th down kind of player to me. After that, in the same tier, Justin Jolly out of NC State, number 7, 6'4", 241 pounds. He started out at UConn. He was too small to really be a tight end. He was essentially a slot receiver. He added weight, transferred in 2024, had a productive season, got over 15 yards per reception, which is awesome. Not as productive in 2025 in terms of yards, but actually more touchdowns than before, which is interesting. He spoke at the Combine about how his focus has improved, specifically in the red zone. And he is someone who fights for every yard. He refuses to go down. He has the kind of attitude you want a tight end to have. He has massive hands, and he does a really good job of boxing out defenders in coverage. And he's really good in contested catch situations, which makes him an immediate red zone impact player. And he reads defenses well, takes advantage of leverage, good ball skills, good timing on jumps. He's not strong enough or technically sound enough to be much of a blocker. He does reasonably well considering you're not going to line him up next to a tackle to seal the edge anytime soon. He needs to put on a lot more strength for that. But he's a decent route runner, not super explosive. He's smart with his adjustments. This is a day 3 player who will have rotational pass catching role, primarily I think in the red zone for a team. But there's a lot to like about him. After him, I have someone I think I'm higher on than most people, Dallin Bentley from Utah, number 88, 6'4", 253 pounds, 4.6 40-yard dash time, which I thought was interesting. This guy is more of a late bloomer. He only got real playing time as a senior in high school, and then he kind of abandoned football for a while he was doing an LDS mission in Colorado. And then he decided to walk on at Snow College, which is a real place, apparently. I don't know what they're doing in Colorado, but Snow College. And he put on weight, became a contributor, and found himself getting offers all over the Western conferences. Ended up at Utah, where he barely saw the field because there was quite a bit of competition. He had some injuries early on, and so he seemed to come out of nowhere in 2025. His production was top 10 in the country, and what stands out right away on film is his contact balance is awesome. He's a big guy who people bounce right off of. It's so hard to get him to the ground, so he's a good yak threat. And he often gets yards just because he refuses to go down. He has great awareness of the first down marker, so he can sort of act as a safety blanket on third downs. And I think he runs routes really well. I think he sells fakes well with his feet, with his head. They lined him up all over. He was effective everywhere he was. He can pass protect at a really high level. He can block in line or from the backfield. He can't always sustain blocks against the more slippery defensive backs, and he abandons his assignments a bit too early, I think. He's also fast for his size. He has a good feel for zone coverage. He's great on scramble drills, not great on contested catches, unsurprising because he's a little bit shorter for a tight end. Not the most explosive off the line or in breaks on his routes. And I think a lot of his issues could be fixed with more coaching, more experience. He definitely is short of experience, but he could be a receiving tight end 2 with tight end 1 upside a few years down the line. I think we can't put him much higher than this just because of how little experience he has. But there's a lot to like here. After him, I have Marlon Klene, the last one we're going to talk about today. Michigan, number 17, 6'6", 248 pounds, 4.6 40-yard dash. He grew up in Germany. He played football there for his first 2 years of high school, which I think is fascinating. And then he moved to the United States. And in 2024, he had to step up when Colston Loveland went down with injuries, and he proved that he could handle it. 2025, he was a team captain, didn't have great numbers, but also, if you know anything about Michigan's offense in 2025, wasn't great. He proved that he has good speed for his size, excellent mismatch opportunity, smooth route runner, dangerous on crossing routes where he can build up long speed. He's not explosive off the line, but I think he does a good job running complex routes that create separation consistently and good balance against press coverage. Really good hands, give him an advantage in traffic, very deliberately takes the ball out of the air with his hands and not with his body. You love to see it. High effort blocker who moves with a wide base. He's trying to drive DBs into the ground. He loves that stuff. Not a good pass protector. No technical knowledge in that regard. You shouldn't count on him for that. His production was limited, played behind Colston Loveland, so what do you expect? And then Michigan's offense was being limited by having a very questionable coach and a very young quarterback. Not a yak guy, rarely breaks tackles, hesitates too much, and just kind of runs into guys. But he also hasn't played football for as long as other players, so there's so much unrealized potential. The tools are great, love the athleticism. I think at the right place, he will become a solid tight end 1. He will need to go to a very patient team, but for a day 3 tight end, I think he has one of the higher ceilings that we're going to see. So that is all we're going to go over today. I will soon come out with my number 9 through 15 and honorable mention. So let me know who you think I should have included in this list. I know that there are guys that I'm way lower on than others are, but that's kind of just how tight end goes. It's just one of those positions that people have different opinions on because some people favor the route runners, some people favor the contested catch guys, some people favor the blockers, some people favor guys who never have to come off the field. So let me know what you guys think. I really appreciate you guys for being here. Shout out to my members as always, and please like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. I'll see you guys next time.